Good Wednesday evening, December 20th. Thank you for joining me. My name is Ian Blackburn, and this is another episode of our ongoing Wednesday night Zoom series called Zoom into Wine. Tonight, it's the heroes of France, and we're going to be covering a lot of ground this evening. Welcome to those of you joining me here. Looks like we've got a little challenge for my friends that join me on Facebook. So I apologize in advance. If you're watching on Facebook tonight, the app is not connecting to Facebook, and they said they're aware of it and that it will be reconnected at some point, but it's not currently working. So I'll be posting this to Facebook after the fact, and I'm sure we'll get some comments and emails, possibly some phone calls. But I've got a lot of great tasting kits out there. Hopefully everybody received yours in good condition and exactly what you ordered. It's been a wild couple of weeks here, and I want to make sure everybody's in good shape. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know I see Gary and Kathy are joining us, and Setsuko's in Japan. Tori, good to see you in Beverly Hills. Natalie, thank you for joining us. How's Nebraska?
We had a beautiful 50-degree day today, so it was pretty nice.
Awesome. Thomas, did we get your kits to you okay?
UPS delivered, GLS did not. So Nico, my stepson, and I are going to be sharing.
Very good.
We may need to open up another bottle afterwards.
Maybe GLS delivers at 9 tonight or so too.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thanks for getting it out this time, Ian. Appreciate it.
Sure. Elizabeth, did you get your 2 kits okay? All right, fantastic. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. It looks like we're coming up to strength here, and we got a great house tonight. So thank you all for joining us all over the country. That's why I love doing this, because we get people to join us from all different places and connect with you. We've got a wonderful set of wines for you to try, so I'm going to encourage you to get your wine glass ready to go. And speaking of which, I need to get my wine glass ready to go, but I'm going to do that while we get our slideshow rolling. Here is our PowerPoint this evening, the Heroes of France. I'm not sure how many of you have ever been to France, but it's a great place for all things wine, food, history, music, and I'm planning a trip in April. If you are interested in joining us, let us know. We're going to go to Burgundy and Bordeaux in April, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. But let's get some wine going and start with our first winery, which is one of the great classics, Sancerre. This is a version made by Hippolyte Reverdy. You may look at the label and say that might look a little familiar. This is just a really important brand in Sancerre, and it is imported by Kermit Lynch. So my friend Andrew at Kermit Lynch gave us a wonderful time to talk about this fantastic brand, and let's begin. All right, Heroes of France allows me to pull together some really great wines, to dig down a little deeper, kind of refresh our knowledge about some of the most important categories of France, and inside of those categories, identify some of the leaders. Now, our guest today is Andrew Major, and he works with Kermit Lynch, legendary importer, based out of, is it Oakland, or where is it technically? Berkeley.
Yeah.
Let's dig in, Andrew. We're going to talk about a bunch of wine today, and I thought a great place to start would be in Sancerre. And so tell us about Hippolyte.
Yeah, so Hippolyte Reverdy, this is a family that has been making wine in this region going back to 1600. Now, in Sancerre, they started making wine even further back from that. This was started in the 12th century by Augustine monks. And this region really developed because of the Loire River, and it was a really important trade route going to Paris and to other places. So they originally just started developing wines because it was easy to get to the river and easy to ship it off. But yeah, this family's been doing it here since 1600, like I mentioned. It's only had the Sancerre AOC status since 1936. And what's really important with Sancerre and so many other parts of Burgundy is that it's the limestone that's underneath this ground. So it's an old ancient seabed. So limestone comes from all the fossilized crustaceans and seashells and things that get compacted. And it's basically just a giant piece of chalk underneath the ground. And that's great for wine. It's great drainage, forces the grapes to dig deeper. It's really great for retaining the acid in the grapes. It just is really great for, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, the varietals that we love from Sancerre and Burgundy and places like that. But yeah, they grow just Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Noir. It's predominantly the white wine, the Sauvignon Blanc that you have and you're drinking. They make a little bit of Pinot Noir and then a little bit of rosé from that Pinot Noir. Only about 8,500 cases are made with this winery, so not a ton. This is a style of wine that they like to have it rest on the lees for about 2 to 3 months, and they stir it about 4 or 5 times during that time. And that's just to keep those lees in contact with the wine. They like just a little bit more roundness, a little bit more happening in the wine because of that. And then they bottle it the following spring, usually around Easter time.
Yeah, this is a classic. If you've been buying Sancerre for a while or going to any French restaurant for a while, this is probably something you may have seen out there in better places. It's not in your chain grocery or anything like that. 8,500 cases. It's not a ton. It's 170 tons of fruit actually, but it's but it's not a lot of of wine in terms of Sancerre. Some of the producers can be quite giant. But this is a very high quality brand and really has stayed kind of the same, and their ambitions haven't really superseded their capacities, and keeps it pretty impressive and pretty boutiquey. And I still think the price value here is exceptional. You're getting a great bottle of a classic wine from a classic producer in a classic region, and really this is listed at the top of the category, top of the food chain in Sancerre. There's a few of them, but this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I personally also just love the label. I think it's one of the coolest Sancerre labels out there. I used to buy it because of that before I started working for Kermit. And thankfully the wine is really, really good. Yeah, it's a cool bottle of wine, and the 2022 vintage. It's fresh, it's bright. They had a disastrous 21 vintage, so we're happy to have a little bit more of it back. But this is your classic on point, high quality Sancerre.
Very cool. I hope you can't hear that banging going on. We have a new neighbor out here, and
No, I don't hear it.
They're building their racks and stuff. It sounds like they're about to come through the wall.
No.
Well, again, the label, the price, everything's on point. The wine, let's taste it now. No wood, right, Andrew? Just super traditional and
stainless steel.
Yeah. And lease time? Pretty much.
3 months. And we do stir the lees on that about 4 or 5 times during that period.
Yeah. So it's a classic. And this is, when you go to a great restaurant and even a sushi bar, and you're looking at a wine list for something that goes great with so much great food, this would be one of the type of wines I would be on the lookout for.
Mhm.
Everybody loves it. It's bright, and there's a wonderful clash between the freshness, the crispness of the fruit, and the minerality of the place. And Sancerre is absolutely a major defining category for the heroes of France tasting. So thanks for bringing it to us, and we will taste it now and be right back. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed our first wine tonight. Said it 100 times, so I'm not going to try to say it anymore. But the word classic, what that word means to a wine person is that there's a history in the way that wine should taste. And Sancerre, made from Sauvignon Blanc, is drilling with acidity, super floral, got a kind of a nice citrusy grapefruit, some lemon peel, some lime, those type of things happening. And it is what other wine regions around the world kind of use as the model for defining the wine. So this is a leading producer inside of a classic category, and there's only room for a few, and this is one of them. So I hope you guys enjoyed our first example. That wine is only in stock a few months of the year. There's only so many cases. When I get an email from Kermit Lynch saying you get to buy your 3 cases now, and that's how it works. This year, 2022, we were all short in 2021. There was almost nothing. I don't know if I even got a case in 2021 because of the rains in the Loire Valley. It was basically eliminated the supply, and so we were all waiting for 2022, which happened to be a pretty generous vintage. And I think I got a few more cases than 3 this year, but not many. And so we have a good supply right now, and it's something that we all should taste every once in a while to remind us what the classic model of this varietal is. I carry them at different price points. There are cheaper versions, but this is the one of the leaders, and they get a little closer to $40 now. Any questions, comments, ideas? Let me know your thoughts. All right. Get a little Gabby after another wine
Okay.
or 2, I hope. All right, hero. And we're going to go into our second wine, which I'll show you. For those of you that have bottles at home, I guess you could predict the order. I don't think there's any surprises here today, but we're moving down to Burgundy, and we're going to the villages of Puy and Fissé. And I'll save my comments for after this video, just in case I say the same things twice. Here we go. Andrew, great to see you again, my friend.
Good to see you.
As we're cruising through the heroes of France, we have recently just tasted our Sancerre. Now we're going into our wine number 2, which is a Puy-Fusé, a Burgundy from the Macon region, from Robert Denogent. And we will bring Andrew back in from Kermit Lynch, because guess what? They import this beauty as well. And I fell in love with this wine, Andrew. We took a pretty big position recently on the last 2017 cases. I love this wine with just a little bit of age, and it's performing like a rock star. Can you tell us all about it?
Yeah. It's a personal favorite of mine. They like to sit on their wines a little bit. So, there aren't many 22s, 21s being, they sit in barrel and then they sit in bottle. So it's a huge plus for when they finally get out onto the market. They're in a great drinking window right now. But yeah, we'll travel down to the Macanais, and this is in Pouilly-Fuissé. Sure, most everyone here has heard of that pocket of the Macanais. Macanais is really, really big. And we're pretty far south when it comes to Burgundy. We're basically on the border of Beaujolais. Beaujolais is just over the hills. So that means it also shares some of the similar terroir of having limestone, but also a little granite. But this is an area that gets a lot warmer than the rest of Burgundy. The terrain looks a little different. Even the houses look a little different. It's more Mediterranean influenced, even though we're not quite there yet. We still have to get through the Rhone when traveling, but it is a lot warmer. So these wines tend to be they're more full, they're richer wines, which then kind of brings us back to sort of Meursault and Puigny areas. These are wines, the Donagent wines are very considered some of the best in all the Macanais, certainly in Pouilly-Fuissé. And often when you drink these wines blind, it's very common for people to think they're drinking Meursault or Puigny. The Robert Donagent inherited these vines from his grandfather, or the original vines, about 5 hectares. He was a law student and then decided to just jump to farming and winemaking, and then it was befriended Colonel Lynch, who took him on and recognized the quality, and Marcel Lapierre became a mentor and really helped guide his hand into upping his game and farming and making just quality wines. And it's really paid off because he's really built a reputation over time as being one of the best, if not the best, in this area. I mentioned he's now farming biodynamically. This is not a wine you necessarily think of as a natural wine, but you could call it that. But he's just, he's like so many farmers and wine growers in Europe that you find who they just have forever wanted to make responsibly produced, responsibly farmed wines, and they know that the less you do to the ground and the more you treat it with respect, the better the wines come out. But they do. There's a little bit of new French oak on this. They typically let it sit in barrel for about 2 winters, and then they bottle it. This is from a specific vineyard called LaCroix. That's pretty special. And what's also special about this wine is that these come from 80-year-old vines. So they're about 1 year younger than Kerma Lynch himself, who turned 81 this year. So pretty old vines, pretty special vines that go into this.
That's cool. Yeah, storied producer, very well reviewed, and but not a large producer. How many total cases these guys make? Do you know?
Just around 4,000 cases.
Okay, so teeny.
So yeah, it's this whole region carries tremendous value in Burgundy, especially these days as the prices get higher and higher and the demand has skyrocketed more than usual. As you drink this wine and you think to Meursault and Puigny and Chassaignet, Montrachet, and some of those, this price that you have it at is a pretty great value, compared to those wines that are now 150 at minimum, 200, 250.
Note that the 17 vintage is something I really enjoyed, so I took a pretty good position on it. I could be selling a fresher, younger vintage, but I like what happens with a couple, especially with this producer, a couple of years in the bottle, and it really starts to take shape. I have, I don't know, maybe 4 cases of this wine remaining, so it's not a lot, but it's a pretty big position for me at this price point. And I did that with this event in mind. And the fact that you have a 17, almost every other winery that I'm talking to, they're receiving their 2022s.
Yeah.
And so to be able to have something with some complexity, some development, this is what you want in a good French wine. And I think it's going to be a shining star tonight in our tasting.
Yeah, 100%.
There we go. That is our wine number 2, the Puy Fusé. And again, all right, around $60. Your discount code that you received for participating tonight will also take a 10% off of that price. So top producer in what is a vastly expanding category. In fact, I'm going to again mention my trip to Burgundy. We intend to visit Puy Fusé and potentially even try to go to Denaugent. It's an area where they've just started elevating vineyards to Premier Cru. There are no Grand Crus in Puy Fusé yet, but quite a few different Premier Crus, and that was in the last couple of years. So this is a very rapidly changing area, and we're seeing the top producers, the $500 producers of Puigny Montrachet, buying land in Puigny. I'm sorry, buying land in Puy or Fissé, which are the names of two towns right next to each other, and they literally blend the wine together from Puy and Fissé to make one wine. So it's really dynamic what's happening there. I don't expect price points to rocket further north, but when you get a name like Laflave, Domaine Laflave, who makes these $500, $600, $700, $800, $10,000 bottles of white Burgundy, and they are now one of the more significant landowners of top Premier Cru land in Puy Fusé, it's going to elevate the category, and it's going to be good for everyone. Puy Fusé 40 years ago was really an important import for France. It was the wine that people recognized. This is its new iteration. This is new quality focus. And when you get a winemaker's wine like this is the kind of stuff that makes people get excited. You know, wine list, Michelin star type of restaurant. This is a bottle of wine that sits around $175 a bottle on the wine list in a restaurant like that. And it's this gets a lot of recognition for its food compatibility and the great chicken, the bris, I think it's called bris chicken. It's got a little fun little tab on it. I used to have one on my wall here. These chickens look like athletes, and they make amazing food in this area, and what grows together goes together, and you can certainly count on this wine being like one of the top pairings for chicken for sure, and all things seafood and all things white wine. Now, we stayed in the Burgundy region, and if I'm moving too quickly, please stop me. Please make a comment. Use the chat box. I see a couple of chats in there, and before we continue, want to look. Lisa, thank you. Sancerre, always a favorite. I saw that comment. And Wendy, you've got some goat cheese going on with that Sancerre. Good choice. I'm going to start making some during the videos. I'll start commenting about the wines a little bit more here, and love to get your feedback as well. But Kermit Lynch is a really important importer, and when I was lining up this tasting, I wasn't thinking about who was the importer. I actually was going through, what wines I wanted to show, and I don't like to repeat brands. I want to continue to move around the store, show off different things, learn something, and kind of revisit some of the producers we have considerable interest in growing our business with, because I love them and I love to sell wines I love. And I love to find wines that connect with people and aren't floor stacked at Costco or any of the superstores. That's great. Those wineries are on their way to being sold in the stock exchange, etc. And that's all beautiful. There's a place for those, but to find something a little bit more boutiquey, 4,000 cases of Puy Fusé. That's what that producer makes. That Sancerre, 8,000 cases for the world. Okay, so not not big volumes and more artisan. And that's really what we're here to celebrate and bring pass forward knowledge about. And I need to continue to learn as well. So these things help me connect with the producers. Andrew is a great source. And with all that being said, we have one more wine from Kermit Lynch. And this is I was joking with Andrew. I go, Andrew, you have a day that you got a little time for me, because we can knock these out pretty quick. He's pretty efficient, but you know, getting a half hour, getting an hour with him is what this required. And we're moving just up the road here in Burgundy for a Pinot Noir. So let's hang out with Andrew one more time and learn about Lump. So we've gone from Sancerre to Pouilly-Fuissé, and now we're going to drink some red Burgundy. A little further north in the Chalonnais, the Côte de Chalonnais, is a village called Givry. And one of the top producers in Givry is Francois Lump.
Yeah, well, these are some personal favorites of mine, mostly because of the value. The Lump family had been farming for a long time, but Francois inherited his vines in the 70s, and mostly sold them off to nearby domains. But in 91, he started up this label with his wife, and what he did that was unique is that he took Selection Missal cuttings from the Côte d'Or and brought them down into the Côte de Chalonnais, which is very rare at the time. Still is fairly rare. So that is sort of the secret to his quality. He works with almost entirely, if not all, I believe all Premier Cru vineyards in Givry. This comes from the Clos du Qualm, and this is one of the most famous Premier Cru vineyards in all of Givry. And it is actually using a specific clone called Pinot Fin, Fin, which is known as a high quality, low yielding, tiny berry clone of Pinot Noir. Givry is one of these regions where, again, great value comes out of it because it's not one of the sexy, fashionable regions. But if you know where to look, and you do, Ian, great wines come from here. There are about 38 Premier Cru vineyards in Givry, and that's about half the vineyards in this region. And there's so many awful things about climate change happening right now, but there are these pockets where they've been a little out of fashion. They might be a little bit lighter in style, but now that these regions are getting, especially Burgundy, is getting more sunlight and more warmth, the grapes are getting riper and juicier and a little more accessible to most people's palates. And so here you have this Premier Cru Burgundy at this price point, and suddenly it's pretty killer. And also, when you think back to the time when like kings were running things out of like Dijon, a lot of these places that are further south, like the Maconais and the Chalonnais, the kings like to keep all their favorite parcels close to them. So almost the further you got away from them, the more work and transport they had to do. So they didn't get all the love and the fame over time. Yeah, I mean, I actually have a really hard time now getting his wines specifically. I love these wines, and we only get about 10 to 15 cases total for all of California. And because you've been supporting these wines for a long time, we like to go to the folks first who have been supporting them for a while and knew them when, and continue that support. But now it's they come in, and as soon as they come in, they go right out. So I don't even get to pull them. I don't even get to buy. They're in such demand. I don't even get to buy many of them myself. So thank you for sharing with me, even though I get to sell and help distribute these wines.
Yeah, it's the business we're in. We barely ever get to even see a bottle. It's now just such a transaction. based on the history. And that's been kind of my philosophy for a while, is you got to do business with the wines you love, because eventually the supply dries out, and only the people that have done business with those wines in the past get to do business with them in the future.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the circle of life in the wine industry. So we've been trying to keep those conduits as greased up as possible for us to receive anything that we can that we love very much. And this is certainly one of them. Who are we looking at here? Is this the daughter or the wife or the winemaker?
This is, I think, his wife. I just know Francois, so I'm a little embarrassed to say, like,
Sorry, I didn't ask you that question in advance. This picture kind of surprised me because I haven't seen this person. I wonder if it's even the same young lady in the vineyards. Probably somebody different there.
yeah, I don't know. I'm embarrassed to say.
Keeping it in the family, keeping it in the family, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a daughter.
So when we talk about, great Burgundy, and we're talking about Premier Cru, you usually don't put those words together and say 69.95. That's or 68.95. So and taste this wine. I think you're gonna love it. It's a brand that I think you could go. I don't care what vintage you're gonna taste. The style is really consistent, dependable, delicious. They do reward patience. If you could drink this in another year or two, it'll even be a little rounder. There's a muscularity to these wines that needs a little tenderizing time in the cellar. And this is a good one to put your name on. If you like it the way it is, drink it the way it is. That's what's great about this too. At this price point, no embarrassment drinking in 2020. It's 2023, about to be 2024.
Right.
These 2020s are delicious. It's a great vintage, and it's a ripe vintage, and one thing about Burgundy too is that I'm not sure you talk to every producer and you'll get the same answer, but these guys have all been kind of learning how to make these wines a little bit more ready to drink each day in Burgundy. And kind of interesting things have been happening in California where we're pulling back and making the wines need a little bit more time. So it's kind of like this funny situation where maybe Burgundy could drink at the same time you could drink California wines.
Yeah, I like that. I like it.
Andrew, you're a champion. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you so much. Always an honor to be a part of your program. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Enjoy your holidays. We'll talk next year.
All right. Take care.
See you, man. Awesome stuff. Getting some good feedback here. Jody, your question, would this age for 10 years or more? I'm going to say yes, but I'm also going to say maybe if you like older Burgundy, then go for it. But make sure you like what happens when the wines are older, because the 10 years is a pretty significant amount of time for a Givry. This is not Gevry, this is Givry. And Gevry Chambertin, 10 years is a no-brainer. Much cooler up there. This is a riper style. And I'm going to probably recommend you think a little bit more like 2025 as the optimal time. I think it's delicious. Now it's kind of a hedonistic wine that will allow you to open this up and start drinking it now. I mean, I'm really shocked at how rich and delicious this is this evening. But that's the 2020 vintage. It's a little riper than most. So conditionally 10 years, yes, it'll age that long for sure, but I'm not 100% sure you'll like it as much when it's 10 years old, because some of the things that are really showing here are that fruit is kind of strutting already. And over time, that fruit will diminish. It'll become more earthy. And we'll have to see if that's the style that you really, really want to experience here. I wish I was as rich and delicious as this wine. Thank you, Robin Brooke. I think your wish will come true in 2024. How about that? All right. I'm getting some really good feedback on this wine. That's great stuff. Wow, what a week it's been. I want to go off for a moment here. The week leading into Christmas, for a wine retailer, super busy, obviously. And we've been very fortunate to get some nice business this week. And we thank everybody for your support. It's been long hours, long days, no wine except for on these tastings. So I'm enjoying this wine very, very much, maybe too much, but that's okay. Great to see some of you. Thomas, this is your son, you said?
This is my wife's son.
Your wife's son. Hello, son.
Hello.
It's Nico, and Nico lives in West Hollywood. He's up visiting for Christmas.
Far out.
Yeah.
All right.
So maybe we can get him at one of your dinners or something.
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff in West Hollywood area.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool.
So glad you could join us tonight. Thanks for
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoy. Lisa, it's so good to see you.
Thanks, my dear.
We got a laugh crowd here. We're having a good time.
Ah, very cool. Very cool.
So,
I got Jody and the team down in are you guys in Newport tonight?
we are.
Look at that group. How many people you got in the room there tonight?
We got 6, but our kids will be joining us for some wine later. So, yeah, 10 more kids. They're all under the age of 10.
Well, it's always great to see you guys. Thank you for bringing
Yes.
us together.
We enjoy it.
Hopefully in this year, next year.
Next year, man. Natty will throw another party.
All right. Well, we look forward to that. We hosted you guys last year, and we'll have to get another gathering together down in Newport. You certainly have the great house to do it at. So
Good times, man. All right. Go back on mute. Thanks, buddy. Thank you.
yes, thank you guys. So we've got fun people from all over the place on this platform, and that's what I really love about Zoom is it lets us get these out all over the place. My parents are on the Zoom tonight in North Carolina, and it's excited to see them try to figure out Zoom as well. It looks like it's the first time they've ever used Zoom in their life. So glad to have you here, Mom and Steve. Thanks so much. Guys, we'll continue on with our tasting and move into our next great wine here. Got to forward through. Of course, when you're kind of doing this high level wines of France tasting, you focus on a lot of the classics. We've been doing that. We're moving down into the Rhone Valley for a very famous wine, Chateauneuf du Pape. And I got to say, this is a wine I would have picked 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Banneray is super fun, small producer, not imported by Kermit Lynch, but could be. It was Kermit has quite a few products in that area, and they're pretty selective. And so, but the Vidal family really does a great job, and we had the great pleasure of videotaping with the daughter. So I'll play this now, and we'll comment later. Heroes of France has taken us from Sancerre to Pouilly-Fuissé to Burgundy, red Burgundy, and now we're heading south into the Rhone Valley. And we have a very special guest. Audrey Vidal is joining us today, and her brand Benaré is one of my favorites. I've always really appreciated your wine, Audrey, so I'm very happy to meet you today.
Thank you, Ian, for inviting me. I'm very excited to be part of this video, and very happy to meet you.
Everybody, this is a picture of your father, Jean-Claude.
My father, Jean-Claude, yes.
Great. Today we're tasting the 2020 Domaine Benaré Châteauneuf-du-Pape. And Châteauneuf-du-Pape is right in the heart of the south part of the Rhone Valley near Avignon, and a very historical spot. The Pope blessed this land. I'm not sure of the year. Was it like in the 1400s? Audrey?
Yes.
So tell us about the history of the estate, Audrey.
So both my parents are originally from south of France, and they moved to Toulouse when they were young because of their professions. But my father always had a dream, as grew up in the village of Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and he spent his young years surrounded by the vines. And as many children of this generation, he had the chance to had some experiences of harvesting and working in the cellars. And so he was very close to this product of wine, and he also was very fascinated by everything which will enrich his senses and the taste. And by the end of the 80s, his dream came true, because a little plots of vine were in my grandmother's family for generation. And naturally, my father wanted to take this vineyard and do something with it. But we had to do this with all the family and transport, as we had nothing. We had just the vines, but we didn't have the cellar or anything. So it was very much a story of family and friends and going through this dream together.
Beautiful. And difficult, because usually it takes a fortune to begin a project like this. So you all came together and support and had the dream.
Yes, he was 50 when he realized his dream. So it is something that he keeps on saying to me. He said, dreams, you will never get too old to have dreams.
Beautiful. There's your father, your mother, your husband, your son. Your son is the next generation?
Yes, we hope so. I mean, as we are trying to give him the taste of working together and giving the value of doing things in family, I hope that he will follow us.
Now, how many total acres or hectares are you farming?
So now the estate farms about 5 hectares, more or less. 4.5 hectares are dedicated to the red Châteauneuf-du-Pape, where all 13 different grape varieties are planted. And the half hectare is planted only with the white grapes, and it is dedicated to the white Châteauneuf-du-Pape, the small cuvée called Le Secret.
Very nice, very nice. And with your vineyard and your vines, these look like untrained, untrellised, kind of single cane bush vine type of approach, no water. Is there any farming practices that you are using?
So as I said before, we feel very close to the environment, so we try to respect it at the best, as we do in our current life, in our normal life. And so we for example, we respect precise mapping for mixing all the grape varieties because we know that they will defend themselves better and they will. Je sais pas le dire. The complementation also helps for the maturity to get to be reached, and we don't use any pesticide for the grass. We just till the soil very often. As you can see in this picture, it is mainly composed by sand. So we have different kind of soil like sand, clay, limestone, and pebbles.
The wine we're tasting today is truly special because it is a Chateauneuf-du-Pape, and it has the opportunity to have 13 different grape varieties, and yours has all 13, right, Audrey?
Yes, this was part of the dream also. We wanted to keep the old tradition and to keep this complementation of mixed grape varieties into our vineyard. And so we think that this variety helps the wine to find a natural complexity. And it's very interesting in the year when it is very hot or very, very dry, because as we have different kind of flavors, the wine will find its natural balance. For example, the white grapes will give some acidity, natural acidity, and we never go through, we never harvest overripe grapes.
And is everything fermented together, co-fermented?
Yes, this is also very important because we use the natural yeast that are present on the skin of the grape, and mixing all these varieties bring different yeast. So it's really interesting in this fermentation phase. It's really interesting.
Very good. And total time in wood is about a year and a half, maybe 18 months?
Yes, exactly. So it stays for 18 months, and then it is bottled, and we try to keep it in bottle before releasing it because we believe the wine needs to rest a little before opening the bottle.
Our 2020 example tonight is another beautiful rendition, and it is very capable of a very nice long life. Well, Audrey was a little hesitant in joining us tonight, thinking that her English isn't very good, but Audrey, I'll tell you, it's just so wonderful to hear it from you and to see you and to meet you and to learn about your property from you. So I want to thank you very much. You did a great job, and it was wonderful to see you. And the wine is gorgeous, and I'm very proud to feature it in our store. It's one of our best selling in the Rhone, and we really enjoy carrying your wine.
Well, I have to thank you for your support. I wish I could visit you and so we can meet and have a glass of wine together. But I'm really grateful to have people like you who believe in us and support what we do in daily basis. So thank you so much, really.
Wow, so great. So little backstory. My first trip to France back in 2001-ish, 2-ish, went with my best friend Clay Moritzen, winemaker up in Sonoma, and we traveled all over France, and we ended up in Chateauneuf-du-Pape, and were referred to going and tasting with her and her father received us, but she was there, and that was 20 plus years ago, and my friend Clay and I were immediately drawn to the fact that she was about our age and very pretty, and we were two guys, in the countryside for a long time. First time getting introduced to a pretty young lady in a while, and we had quite a great tasting there, and we promised her we'd stay in touch. Well, that didn't quite happen. So I reminded her of meeting her back then, and unfortunately she did not remember. But the dream between Clay and I was strong for many years. It was great. So we remember the Chateauneuf-du-Pape visit. Their property is almost contiguous with Chateau Reyes. And Chateau Reyes is a very important Chateauneuf-du-Pape producer that sells their wine for $1,000 a bottle. And that's when I saw how close to Chateau Reyes this producer is, I'm like, yes, we got to go there. So it's a great find, everybody. This is a teeny, small, authentic producer, super charming, family owned and operated. They do old vines, but in a simple, possible way, and they're not trying to change the direction of the wine at all. In fact, let it go. They got all 13 grape varieties in there. They co-ferment everything together, blend it together, just boom. It's it. That's the estate wine right there in your glass. And it just becomes something really fun over time. It does take a little time. And this, someone asked me about 10 years. Wow, this wine will be great in 10 years. We will never wait 10 years to drink this wine. It'll be gone. We'll be drinking the 2030 version 10 years from now. But this is super delicious, great price point, affordable Chateauneuf-du-Pape too. So really nice to see that. And yes, I had to twist her arm off to do this because she didn't think she spoke good enough English to do this presentation. Plenty good. And I hope she watches this and blushes a little bit. All right. We hope you're enjoying yourself. We're moving through our tasting at a pretty good rate there. And Heroes of France. There again is the price point, $60-ish for the Banneray. I'm sure the next vintage will push it up over the $60 mark. I probably should be over $60 a bottle on it already because we're moving through it so fast. But I do think that 2021 will be here pretty soon, maybe February. So when I run out, it won't be for too long. But we take, this is a serious acquisition for us. We take a good chunk when it comes in to make sure we have it, and every year it sells out before the next vintage comes through. Love that label too, just so classic.
Yeah.
So great.
I love how the bottle is, I mean, that's definitely specific to them, that it's.
Yeah, those are the keys. The Pope blessed the land in the 1400s. That's why the Pope hat is on the bottle. That was a very good Pope. Unfortunately, about 200 years later, they had a really bad Pope and they burned him out. In fact, the burnt castle is still on the hill in Chateauneuf-du-Pape to remind future popes to be nice. And that blessing is on the bottle. And the keys are, this is the official bottling. So many Chateauneuf-du-Pape producers have that adorned on the bottle. And it's just another special part of this special wine.
Assuming we could hold out and we held it, say, for 5 years, what could we expect?
Magic.
Define magic.
It just, I think this wine is still showing youth in a way that over time it expands out, a little more complexity, a little more spice, a little more roundness. And I said when my tasting note earlier, that tomato leafy kind of thing. I don't know if everybody can catch that, but that's certainly something we look for, especially when you start talking about wines like Reyes and other great Grenache based Chateauneuf-du-Papes. But I think that as that color softens a little bit, becomes a little bit more earth oriented. And Tony, that was your question. And I know you like your fruit, Tony,
Yes.
but this has good fruitiness now, and I think it will maintain that.
More full-bodied?
It doesn't get bigger usually, Tony. It just gets a little more complicated, a little more athletic. I mean, what does that mean? It means like right now it's just kind of not moving around a lot, and it's not very dynamic. It's very good,
Mhm.
but over time it'll cover more space in the glass. It'll invite more ideas. It'll be wiser. And this is a smart wine, and
Okay.
it just needs time to really expand in the glass. And that 5 years is the magic number. I love that number for this wine.
Okay.
Chateau Simon. Okay, so Tony, you might not like this wine,
Uh-oh. Okay.
but when you go to France, you got to have both sides of the equation. You got to kind of go for those fun, hyper expressive, riper styles like we saw with Lump. And we saw the incredible piercing fruitiness of the Sancerre and the beautiful craftsmanship behind that Chardonnay. This is old school. When you talk about old school French wine, they should have this picture in the dictionary next to that term. This is Chateau Simon. Let's go. Heroes of France. We're going all over the country of France to introduce and maybe to acquaint ourselves with some really fantastic, notable brands. And Clark Bowling is on the Zoom with us, and Clark has been a guest before. He is the grower liaison for Rosendahl, and he's really good at this. So Clark, thank you for joining us and talking to us about Chateau Simon, a brand that you're affiliated with. And I'd love to learn more about, because this is just such a cool addition to our event. And I think everyone's going to really enjoy learning about a Provence red, which I think a lot of people maybe haven't even had the experience of tasting before.
Well, thanks, Ian. Thanks for the kind words, and it's good to be back and hanging out and talking about our wines with you. Chateau Simon is one of my very favorite producers in our portfolio, and there's so many facets of Chateau Simon which are completely unique and singular to them. It's actually hard to know where to start, but I'll just kind of give a brief rundown of who they are, where they are, and why they're special. The estate itself is about 200 years old. They started in 1830, and it's been generation after generation of the Rougier family, the current generation of which is Jean-Francois Rougier, who you'll see pictured in the slideshow here. What's really special about Simone is sort of their location. So within the larger Provence, as with all French wine regions, you have a lot of variety of terroir and soil and elevation and exposition. They occupy this very, very tiny little appellation called Palette. And Palette is very, very close to the city of Aix-en-Provence, a fairly large city. And it's kind of disarming when you visit Simone, because if you start off in Aix-en-Provence, you drive not even 15 minutes outside of town and you reach this dense forest with the gate to Chateau Simon. And as you wind your way up the really long pathway through the forest, and then you reach a break in the forest, all these things matter in the ultimate character of Simone, because north-facing vineyards get less intense sunlight than south-facing vineyards. And a lot of places in France, they prize southern-facing vineyards because they get the best and the most quantity of sunlight. But in the south, and especially with the changing climate, this north-facing situation that Simone has is a blessing. It keeps the wines balanced and fresh, even in a hot vintage like we've been having lately. Especially in the white wine, but a little bit in the red as well. You have these notes that are really, really pine resin-like. And I don't think it's the case that like the pine is somehow getting into the wine, but you know, you find this in a lot of areas where the vegetation that grows in close proximity to the vines themselves, there's some sort of influence of flavor, and it's really unmistakable. The vines at Chateau Simone too, this is a really unique situation. So the vineyards were planted right after phylloxera in the late 1800s, and quite a few of the vines are still producing fruit. So we're talking vines now that are up to 130 or so years old, which are some of the oldest vines still producing fruit to be found in France. And within the property, which is 20 hectares or about 50 acres, you have a huge variety of red and white grape varieties. Some of them you don't even really see outside of Chateau Simone much. Some of them are virtually extinct. So you have this situation of vineyards that's kind of like a museum in a lot of ways. And rather than being a single grape variety's expression, the wines of Chateau Simone encompass all these different varieties, and they're all picked together, pressed together, fermented together. So their terroir really gets voiced with all this nuance instead of just being, you know, a Grenache or, you know, what have you. And that really adds to the character of Simone as well. Another thing that's incredible about Simone is that they have, through all the changes in French viticulture, through all the technology, through all the history, the 20th century, all the tumult of that, they have stayed the course in how they make their wine. They've always made the wine in the exact same way. And, you know, even though now they have an electric pressoir that slowly lowers the pressing unit onto the grapes instead of a manually cranked one, all the ideas behind the wine are the same. The cellar is the same. The microbial life within the cellar is the same. So you can taste the bottle of Chateau Simone from the 40s or 50s, and it's the same mentality and same process, same vines in a lot of cases that's produced in the 2000s. And so it's really rare in French wine and any kind of wine to have this sort of through line of history and how the wine is made. The vineyards have never been sprayed with chemicals, so they've been organically run the whole time. They kind of never went down the path of least resistance and started spraying to make their lives easier. They've always worked the land, worked the soil, and done things in the kind of tried and true agrarian, pre-technological, pre-chemical way. So really, in so many ways, Chateau Simone is a unique property and a unique wine.
Coming in around $80 a bottle for the 2019. We're going to taste that with our crew right now. But yeah, I was fascinated when I saw the grape composition. There are some grapes I've never heard of before.
And I think it speaks to their mentality as well, that those vines are still active. And even if they're not very productive because they're so old, they consider them important.
So question for you, have you heard any of these arguments about, you know, the essence of terroir may not be because the vine is taking up the minerality, you know, with its roots and pulling that information from the roots, but it's actually more of the yeast that's in the vineyard? And
I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think that we have sort of evolved and adopted this really simplified way of looking at terroir. As it's something that literally transfers from soil into a vine. And I think there's so much more going on than that. There's the way that water is uptaken into the vine. And I think there's a lot of processes that we just don't fully understand. And certainly yeast plays an enormous role. And that's something we should talk about too with Simone, because they've had the same cellar forever. And they've always allowed the fermentations to proceed spontaneously. So they have this robust yeast population in their cellar that the wines just ferment perfectly every year, and they never have to do a thing to it. And it's the same group of yeasts in the cellar and the same population in the vineyards because they don't spray chemicals onto the vines in the grapes and reduce that yeast population that way. So, you know, all in all, yeah, I think you could take Chateau Simon and somehow replicate the whole situation somewhere else, but the yeasts would be different, and so the wine would be different, and everything, and so that's part of the magic of it, I believe. Chateau Simon will bring a familiar note while being completely unique in its own thing as well, I think.
Tremendous. Great to see you again. Thanks for your time and expertise. And until we talk again.
Thanks for having me, Ian. My pleasure.
Take care.
Take care.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
So we spent the first 5 minutes of our Heroes of France interview discussing baseball hats, of course. His was actually from Brown University.
Well, that's what the B was. Okay.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure that was also the Brooklyn Dodgers B. I just didn't want to tell him that. And it's always a game for me to see if I can wear a different hat in every interview. It doesn't always work out, but the hat collection sits right now at 34, and will probably be growing with the start of the new season, because I'm sure there will be some Shohei Ohtani hats coming.
Of course.
It's going to be a great year to be a Dodger fan.
Yep.
I probably have more Giant fans on the Zoom tonight than ever. So I feel for you Giant fans.
No, I was a Yankee fan.
You're a Yankee fan?
Yep.
Well, it could be an amazing Yankee year. I mean, they're making some moves. I kind of like what they've done. And if they get Yamamoto, and that's rumor is they might, because he always wanted to be a Yankee. This guy is looking pretty amazing. He's the #1 pitching prospect, and he's the if he batted, he'd probably be talked about like Shohei.
He doesn't. He doesn't though.
He doesn't.
No. I grew up a Yankee fan, but now I'm obviously a Dodger fan. I'll root for the Dodgers. When they play the Yankees, I have mixed emotions.
Well, we'll have to talk about that more.
Yes.
I don't know if they're coming to LA this year. I hope so. They're supposed to be spreading out the games so that we see more players, more teams. I was at the game this year where what's your home run hitting champion guy's name?
Judge.
Aaron Judge ran into the fence. He got hurt at Dodger Stadium for like 6 months. He was out.
Yeah.
Terrible about that.
No, you didn't.
Did for sure. I love seeing great players. I don't care if they kick our butt, then that's the way it goes. But yeah, no, I would have loved to have seen the Yankees have a better year. They deserved a better year. They had some major bad breaks last year. I think they're going to be amazing this year. All right.
Too.
Yeah, let's hope. We move into wine 6, and I just want to break for a quick second and just point out some of the fun stuff we have going on. And I got to start with my trips, because it's time to plan your calendar for next year. And what are you going to be doing? What are you going to be looking forward to? What's going to matter most in life? It's the great memories we create. And I got to tell you, my trips are what I look forward to most in my world. I love to travel, I love to see different places, but the amount of hours we putting these things together is amazing. We have a trip to Burgundy, April 21st to 27th. I've said this 100 times out loud. I got to keep doing that to make sure it happens. But when I retire, I want to retire in Burgundy. And I'm thinking Beaune. I may not be able to afford it by that time, because Beaune is starting to get popular. My idea was amazing. It was early. I may not be able to afford it, but we'll see. But I love going to Burgundy, and we're gonna stay in Beaune. We're gonna walk Beaune every night. We have dinner at a top restaurant. Beaune is the capital of Burgundy. The Dukes of Burgundy were based there. The Hospice de Beaune. It's a wonderful place.
What wineries are you gonna cover?
Click right into my trip and you'll see
Okay.
the detail on a day-to-day basis. We've got a fantastic itinerary, and I think you'd really like it, Tony.
Okay, I'll look.
Burgundy special too. It's not, and I've done everything in the world to keep that price affordable, because you could spend 3 times what we're offering and do the exact same thing that we're going to do. So it kind of comes down to, what wines you're going to buy and meals you're going to have and that kind of stuff. So take a look at the way we're going to do it. Bordeaux is actually contiguous with Burgundy, so you could do both, or you could take, one or the other. We take a day off on Saturday. We wake up, go on Sunday to Bordeaux. Sunday night, get together in Bordeaux. And they're about week-long trips. We get producers like the ones we're meeting here tonight to welcome us, to receive us. Sometimes it says on the page that we're organizing a dinner. It may be with a producer. And by the time the trip gets really close, we may have more producer dinners, because if they receive us at our house, we're probably not having to buy the wine. We get to drink some great stuff from their cellars. They package them sometimes in price points and stuff, but these trips are pretty packaged right now, but they always get better from here. Our trip in October to Argentina is spectacular already, very detailed. We go from Buenos Aires to Salta, Salta to Mendoza, Mendoza to Patagonia. And the Patagonia extension is optional. If you want to join us, there's only 2 spots left. So that's where we're at. And things could change, because we've got people who have paid a deposit. If they don't sign the contract, their spots might open back up. But I'm pretty sure that's going to be sold out. And we are sending out the contracts very soon. Spain, November 17th through 27th. We're in northern Spain. Amazing appointments, Rioja to Barcelona, basically. And we're going to go through the northern part, the Golden Miles, they call it, of Ribera del Duero and Rioja. We're going to go to San Sebastian and Bilbao. Haven't done that kind of a trip in many, many years. So it's going to be great. And we will have a meal at Abadía Retuerta, which, if I had to say one dinner ever was the best dinner of my life, it was at that place, and that chef is still there. I just happened to be there and work for the company that was importing Abadía Retuerta, and the restaurant was a day away from opening, and the chef practiced with our group.
Oh dear. Oh.
We sat there for 5 hours, Tony, and we had like the meal of a lifetime. We had to leave. People didn't want to go, but I had Pingus, a very famous winery, waiting for us, and we just had to leave. And it was like tragic to pull out of there, because we were so over the top. But it was that's the price you have to pay when you make appointments. Piedmont, also on our calendar for next year. Made some choices. We're going to Piedmont. I think Piedmont will go very strongly. We've got a lot of great experience there. We are in love with this particular little hotel that we stay at, where they bake all the stuff in house. My parents actually have visited Piedmont with me recently, and it's special. So we had to make room, so we pushed Greece out to 2025. We'll do Greece in 2025 because that's the farthest thing from organized, and everything else is pretty locked in already. So I'm very comfortable and happy about our schedule, and I'm not sure I have enough miles to do all these trips, but we will hope that it all works. That's a lot on my trips. Sorry for that, but they're important, and that we spend a disproportionate amount of my life planning those trips because they're so impactful to my ever important happiness, to have these trips go
What
very.
about the food tour?
Food tours?
Yeah, what about that one?
Yeah, so this is a concept that we're gathering interest on, and so it's more of a question, where would you like to tour? And so right now, Tony, I'm working on the idea of taking people on a trip to New York to go eat and drink across New York, famous bars, famous restaurants, maybe have dinner with the guy that we just met from Rosenthal, organize a French dinner with him, Italian importers in New York.
Yeah.
Really some different ideas coming together. And because there are wineries throughout New York. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking Manhattan. We're talking walking and eating in top places, and meeting wine people in New York.
I could get into that.
And I'm going again to Japan in February so that we could get good at Japan. I would like to take a food tour to Japan. I do think that anybody that's ever been to Japan will agree that it is perhaps the best food in the world. The Japanese mentality and their attention to detail is unrivaled, and the food is not only gorgeous, beautiful, but so well done, so nicely done. It's a marvel. So that's the whole idea behind food tours, and we're trying to build that up. And yeah, so that's what we've got going on there. Let's go back into wine number 6, and Chateau Talbot, who I got to interview this morning. So that's where I was saying I was wearing the same hat. And let's continue. Heroes of France, we're traveling all over France and tasting some of the legendary classic wines. And when we put this lineup together, I always get to put a little personal attachment to the wine. Why did I pick it? And Talbot's always been a wine that I think surprises to the upside. We have tasted all over France, going from Sancerre to Burgundy, to Châteauneuf-du-Pape, Provence, and now finishing in Bordeaux. And we have the great pleasure of showing the 2016. Bordeaux is a very important wine in the wine world. Largest production area in France, and probably the most dollars, correct? Is that like a big dollar generator?
Yeah, that is the biggest vineyard for value in France, actually. Yeah.
My assistant who edits these videos cut my introduction of Jean-Marie Laporte, who's the winemaker and director of Talbot. And super amazing that he made time to do this video for us. We were supposed to shoot on Friday. He had some technical issues, so we pushed it to today. So I don't know where my intro went with him, but Jean-Marie Laporte is who we're talking to, and he is a very critical part of the winery. Heroes of France, we're traveling all over
sorry about
France. I pick it. And Talbot's always been a wine that I think surprises to the upside. We have tasted all over France, going from Sancerre to Burgundy, to Châteauneuf-du-Pape, Provence, and now finishing in Bordeaux. And we have the great pleasure of showing the 2016. Bordeaux is a very important wine in the wine world. Largest production area in France, and probably the most dollars, correct? Is that like a big dollar generator?
Yeah, that is the biggest vineyard for value in France, actually. Yeah, definitely.
And in talking to you just before we started recording, I found out that Chateau Talbot is actually the second largest estate in Saint-Julien. You say the fourth largest in classified growths?
Exactly, yeah. 110 hectares, so that's roughly around 270 acres. So yeah, that's a big estate. We produce around 600,000 bottles a year, including the two reds and the white. So that's a lot.
And looking at the facility behind you, which is magnificent.
The barrel cellar, yeah. There's a new and big barrel cellar built in 2012, so already 10 years old. It can receive 1,000 barrels on the ground, so that means that we can lodge a lot of them in it.
Our picture is Nancy Bignon-Cordier, which is, did I pronounce that okay, Jean-Michel?
Perfect.
Oh, not very often.
Nancy Bignon-Cordier. She's a courtier, basically. So she used, before her wedding, she was a courtier. And she is representative of the fourth generation of the Cordier family owning the estate. So they bought Chateau Talbot in 1918. And she is now in charge personally of the estate. And the children, that's 3 children from the 5th generation, are coming along to help her into the management of the estate.
Tell us about your journey getting to Talbot, and did you grow up wanting to be a winemaker?
Not really, because I'm not from Bordeaux originally. I'm from Toulouse, which is also in the southwest region of France. Not really known for its wine, actually. There is nothing really interesting around. I discovered wine pretty late, when I was 20 years old, and I discovered wine in California, actually. My first experience in winemaking was in Mendocino County as an intern, so in 1996. And that's the place where I really fell in love with the wine business, winemaking, basically. So I graduated from an agriculture school in Toulouse, and Toulouse being not that far from Bordeaux, I decided to move to Bordeaux. I began my career in Bordeaux in 2000, but basically it's chance only. I didn't schedule to do everything in wine business before getting in love with it.
Very good. And your time at Talbot, how long have you been there?
A bit more than 5 years. So I had a few different positions in Bordeaux. The longest one was in Pomerol, where I managed an estate in Pomerol for 11 years, and I became a courtier. So a courtier in Bordeaux is a broker, so kind of an intermediary between the négociants, the merchants, and the chateaux, the estates. And then I went back to the estate point of view, which basically is my passion and what I'm made for. So I came back to the estates in 2018, managing Talbot.
Beautiful. For those of you that aren't familiar, here's a map of Bordeaux, and you can see Saint-Julien on the map. So the property has a history prior to the courtier ownership going back to 1453. And a lot of the Bordeaux houses are connected to English government, and they loved their claret, and this was certainly their basically their wine region. And and the English are still today massive
Yeah.
collectors of Bordeaux and really
Exactly.
has helped set the initial pricing with their investments.
Mhm.
And it's a very interesting business model.
Yeah.
Things have been changing a lot in the last 20 years, though, the way these wines are distributed and purchased. And I'd say it's for the better. And Talbot is definitely on the upper, the arrow is pointing up as we see some really nice quality of distribution, and the wines deliver incredible value, get great scores, have, like I said earlier, amazing ageability. This is the Chateau. Is anyone in residence at the property?
Not full time, because the family lives in Paris, because Mr. Bignon, so the husband from Madame Bignon-Cordier, used to be a lawyer, so he was based in Paris, so that's basically where they live most of the time. But they come to Talbot very, very often. They stay something like 3 or 4 months a year at Talbot, and when they come, of course, they live in the chateau. So it's if you have the chance to come and see us and have a lunch or dinner in the chateau, you'll see pictures from the family. So it's not only a chateau for picture and marketing stuff. So it's really a place where the family lives when they come down.
Fantastic. Well, we'll have to talk about bringing our group to see you in May. We are taking a group to Bordeaux, and we'd love to come and visit.
Yeah.
And
Please do so.
tonight we're tasting the 2016 wine, and it is a blend of Cabernet Merlot and Petit Verdot. Are the blends year to year pretty similar, or do they change?
Yeah, they are pretty similar because, of course, we rely on our vines and on our vineyards, so we don't change that from a year to another. But in the last 10 years, what we can see is that we do increase the percentages of Cabernet Sauvignon in the blend, because, of course, with global warming, Cabernet Sauvignon is much more adapted to these new conditions. It rives better than before, and also it permits us to lower the alcohol content, because of course with Merlot it gets higher in sugar and so in alcohol. The Cabernet Sauvignon is probably one of the first answers that we can give to the global warming at the moment, and so we use it more than before in the blend. But 65 Cab in 2016 was in the average of these vintages around.
95 points Wine Spectator. Just a universally loved wine, vintage, house, very consistent. And that's what I think Bordeaux has worked very hard to deserve, is the reputation, the house reputation. And I think Talbot is an overachiever, always one of the best values in Bordeaux. And you're going to taste it tonight. What is the typical experience that you like to educate people about when they're about to taste a Talbot? What do you have them look forward to?
We are pretty happy to say that Talbot is kind of an archetype of Saint-Julien. So I really want to let people know our philosophy about balance. And Saint-Julien, people usually say that Saint-Julien is a balance between Margaux and Pauillac, with the power of Margaux and the finesse, the elegance of Margaux, the power of Pauillac and the finesse and elegance of Margaux. And that's really what we want to achieve at Talbot. So when people try and taste Talbot, I want them to realize that even if we do have 2/3 of Cabernet Sauvignon in the blend, so it's basically a powerful and tannic wine, we have very soft tannins. So we don't want to dry, we don't want to get any astringency. So we really want to focus about the pleasure of the tasting and to enjoy the wine for what it is and not for what it's going to be maybe in 20 or 30 years. So balance in the wine.
And what do you say to people that want to drink the wine now?
For 16, you mean, or basically?
16 obviously allows us to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But, there's like this fantastic curve, this wisdom that the wine picks up with 20 plus years. And not everybody wants to wait 20 years to drink this wine. But currently, I think the wine is beautifully structured, and that balance is here already. We see this wonderful Cabernet profile. I love that sense of walking into a Bordeaux chateau and smelling that, I call them expensive spa-like aromas, things like coffee, chocolate, eucalyptus, mint, all of that coming together, a little vanilla. And I really enjoy seeing this wine. I often do dinners where we taste the young vintage next to a really old wine, and we call it now and then. And it's a great way to really appreciate.
And
why
to
is the
understand the
wine
estate.
now. Yes.
The main difference between now and 20 years or 30 years ago is that we now harvest berries and grapes when they are ripe. So you are not obliged anymore to keep the wines for 20 or 30 years until the tannins get soft. We know that nowadays not everybody is able to to have a cellar, to have a wine fridge or whatever, and does not have the patience anymore, including myself, to wait 20 years to drink the wines. So we now in Bordeaux and elsewhere in the world have both the know-how and the machines that permit us to have the possibility to drink the wines when they are young and to age them. We probably make wines with as much tannins as 20 years ago, but the difference is not that these tannins are ripe. So even if you want to drink a 2020 now, it's an infanticide because it will be much better in 10 years, but you can drink it. You can take a pleasure of it. Of course, it will miss a bit of complexity, but it will be rounded, elegant, soft, creamy, and you can get in that result.
I think that's a super point to make. 30 years ago, they were picking Bordeaux in general, just picking everything. And the selection process and the machines. Are you using an optical sorter?
Yeah, for Chateau Talbot, it's optical sorting, and for Connetal, for the sugar label, it's more densimetric, bath sorting.
Very good. So these are state-of-the-art techniques for making sure the best fruit is accepted, and the fruit that doesn't meet the criteria is refused. And that's what's elevating these wines. And I tell everyone, there were great vintages in the past. How are the current vintages? Well, the houses have really leveled the playing field. So even in a great vintage or a difficult vintage, you're seeing quality that we never achieved before. And wine has never been better. And honestly, I think the price points have never been better. The competition is fierce, and houses are priced to perfection because this is what the market will pay for the wines, and they make a good amount of wine. But this is a great time to be a wine consumer, and your house is a testament to quality and very much in line with the quality that we're tasting tonight. The price point, I think it's beautifully done, and you're one of my favorite houses in Bordeaux, and I thank you for your time this morning.
My great pleasure. Enjoy.
Yeah, we were talking for a while this morning. He was he's a treasure to be able to get on the video. Now, I'm showing this picture because there are price standards that we need to maintain on our website, and this is what the wine should be on our website. Click, if you like the Talbot, click through the website tonight and make sure you capture the price that we are able to offer this evening. Your discount code will not work on the lower price, but it is a very good price on Talbot. This is another wine you cannot go wrong with. I buy this wine in past vintages too. Like I've had it from 61, 55, many of the 1980s vintages, the 90s. This wine always starts off pretty much like, you know, back then it was like a $50 bottle and gets up to about $150. And then it kind of plateaus around $150 to $250 a bottle. I don't care how old it gets. And it destroys more expensive bottles around it. It's a great house. They do make a lot of wine. This is the fourth largest classified estate in Bordeaux. And that's why the price is where it's at. Plus is classified fourth growth. So in the 1855, they listed it on the at the fourth growth level. There's nothing significant in Saint Julien really. There's a second growth, a third growth. There's no first growth, but the style here is it's not quite as totally massive as some of the other places. This wine it now sits at 7 years old. It's starting to relax a little bit, but not quite there yet. 3 more years. That's what this wine needs. 3. When this wine turns 10, something, again, that magic word unlocks at 10 years old on this wine. It just does. And 15 and 16 are ridiculous great vintages. So will be 19 and 20. But you could order this from any vintage and it's going to be super consistent. And it's a good deal. It's a good deal. So that's why we picked it. I've used it time and time again and from older vintages. Very dependable. The Cordier family, by the way, go back a generation or two. They're in their 4th generation. When they were in the 2nd generation, they owned Bordeaux. They owned Bordeaux through thick and thin. There were some really tough times. You know, Prohibition was not a great time to own Bordeaux, but the 1970s weren't a great time to own Bordeaux either. And they had to sell off some properties, and they've focused almost all their energy now on Talbot. And you saw that forest in that cellar. That is an impressive sight. It looks like trees holding up that room. That he said 100. I believe it's 100,000 barrels that will hold. I think he said bottles, but it's 100,000 barrels.
Wow.
That's impressive. That's impressive. And we haven't completely secured that dinner yet, but we are planning on visiting when we go to Bordeaux. So if you want to join us, that'd be great.
Thanks, Ian.
Good night, all.
Yeah, thank you for everything.
Thanks for joining me, Mom. See you later. Good night, everybody.